Larry and Evan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, pleasure to be here.
Larry, I can only imagine what the past year has been like for you, for your family, and especially your son, Brian. Your whole life has been turned upside down, hasn't it?
Incredibly, yes, but even more so for Brian. It's shocking. Really, it's. I mean, if you're my wife, it's the speaking of the bears, the 800-pound gorilla in the room that nobody speaks about, at least here in the family, is what everyone else out there is talking about. That my wife picked up the phone and called 911, and she shouldn't have done that. That's not how we were raised. We were raised that you trust the police and you go to the police when you're in trouble or if you need help. So maybe we're naive, but that's how we were raised and what we believe. And really, by the way, the Mount Laurel police were wonderful. They're not the problem.
But I got to ask you, did you ever think that once the prosecutor took a look at the facts, that Brian was moving, that he legally owned these guns, that he would have ended up in prison where he is right now serving 7 years?
The polar opposite. I was so convinced that as soon as somebody with reasonable intelligence and a logical mind looked at the situation, Brian might get a written warning or maybe a fine, but it was incredulous doesn't even begin to go. How I felt. Slack-jawed, dumbfounded, all of the words that you can put in there, that was me. I couldn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Evan, in your thoughts, I mean, Brian's case is proof of a system that's broken.
Yes, unfortunately, this is one of those, we're from the government, we're here to help, situations that escalated to what is probably the most biggest example of the injustice that comes out of New Jersey gun laws. We want Brian out of jail. Brian is not someone who the legislature ever intended to be incarcerated. It's really wrong that he's there and he needs to get out. But if there's anything here that at least Brian's suffering and sacrifice is to show the problem that exists with the law and how it applied to Brian, and he ended up in this situation. Every gun owner in New Jersey is at risk, and Brian's case stands for that risk, and we need to get him out of jail. Hopefully the governor will recognize this situation, and we really, really want to see him with his sentence commuted. We're also on appeal now. We feel we have a really strong appeal. And I'll tell you, if the appeal is not successful, then, like I said, every gun owner in New Jersey is simply at risk of the same consequence facing Brian. And that's because if a judge is allowed not to tell the jury the law, which is what occurred here, did not tell the jury about the exemptions, then any gun owner in New Jersey has the same problem because we are an exemption-based state, and you only lawfully possess by way of these exemptions in the law unless you're part of an elite class that has a license, particularly a carry license, of which very few individuals are granted. As a matter of fact, New Jersey's carry license is commonly known as a shall not issue license.
And what, Evan, as you're saying, what's so outrageous is that Judge Morley would not only let the jury know about it, but they asked about it, and he didn't provide them the information, as I understand it.
Absolutely. They asked about it at least 3 times. They wanted to know the exemptions so that they could do their job as jurors and decide the facts. Unfortunately here, the judge made a facts decision instead of giving them the law, which would be his job, and let the jury decide the facts. And that is seriously a problem here. A matter of fact, let me just tell you, right from the official transcripts on page 135, the jury has just sent a question to the court, and it says, the court says right here, I have a question from the jury, which I've marked C3. Here's the question. Ready? Please define the exceptions to the law for all three charges. That is it was announced that moving is an exception. We want to be clear of all exceptions, if any, for each charge. There you go. Can it be any clearer?
No. That
the jury was begging to weigh the law and the facts and do their job and make a decision. And, again, denied.
Judge,
Brian is paying a price for that, and
yes.
it's wrong.
And Larry, I mean, knowing that the jury didn't get the full story, that's incredible.
It's not only incredible, it is enraging. The blood was boiling in me, because essentially what happened, and Evan can speak a lot better about it than I can, but just in human terms and in being a dad, what I witnessed was the one time in my life that the bad guys were hurting my son and I couldn't do anything about it.
Larry, how often are you able to visit your family? Are they able to visit with Brian or talk to him?
He's allowed one visit per weekend for an hour and a half, up to 4 people maximum.
And how is he holding up, knowing that the story never was told?
He's a strong kid. Having said that, just going through the past few months of this experience, what I have seen is that the world, and specifically the court, has defined my son by 2 possessions that he had in his trunk, and has totally discounted or not even considered the fact that he is a college graduate. He's working on his master's at NYU. He has his own company. He has employees that work for him. He's a mountain climber. He's a skier. He's a snowboarder. He's a dad. He's a neighbor. The only thing that they look at is, aha, he's got guns.
And Jenny, if I may say, there's been this has been a lot of getting a lot of media attention, and we're really glad that you're really thoroughly exploring this. But I would like to reveal, really, for the first time here from the transcript, because we only recently got the transcript, question number C6 from the jury. Here's what the jury asked. Why did you make us aware at the start of the trial that the law allows a person to carry a weapon if the person is moving or going to a shooting range? And during the trial, both the defense and prosecution presented testimony as to whether or not the defendant was in the process of moving. And then in your charge to us to deliberate, we are not permitted to take into consideration whether or not we believe the defendant was moving. Does it get any clearer than that?
No, it
what
doesn't.
The injustice was in Brian Aitken's case, and they were denied the law to do their job.
All righty, you guys. Before I let you go, I know there's a rally coming up on December 12th, again urging Governor Christie to pardon Brian. And let's just hope for a strong turnout.
We really need that. It's so important, because a good guy like Brian should not be in state's prison.
And I've got to ask you, Larry, have you had a chance, any communication at all with Governor Christie's office?
I actually did receive a phone call. The New Jersey 101.5 radio station talk show host Dennis Malloy was really how we began to get really, really broader national attention. And they have a call-in show where you can call in and speak to the governor. I called. I couldn't get him on the phone, but they said that I would get a return phone call, and I did the next day from his director of constituent relations, and that she just wanted me to be aware that it was in the governor's office and that he would be looking at it.
All righty. Thanks to both of you. And as you said, Larry, let's hope the governor gets all the information he needs, because, as you said, this is the perfect storm of injustice.
You've already sent a letter to the governor. 2 is better than 1. And if you could send another letter to the governor urging him to support Brian's release, we'd greatly appreciate it.